welcome to the deep dive. Today we're talking about two deeply different worlds that are, well, they're using the exact same cutting-edge tool for completely opposing goals.
And that tool is, of course, distributed ledger technology, blockchain.
Right.
On one side, you have these advanced global logistics hubs, the giants, like Singapore and Rotterdam. They're already using these systems, and they're combining them with advanced AI for just surgical precision. They're aiming for lightning speed, for securing data integrity in systems that, frankly, already run beautifully.
They're already at, what, a baseline of 95% efficiency?
Exactly. So they're chasing that last few percentage points of pure optimization.
But then you have the emerging markets, and we're going to be looking specifically at some key African ports. They're looking at the same technology, blockchain's transparency, its immutability, and they're deploying it for something far more foundational.
They're using it to establish trust from scratch.
From scratch.
That's the key distinction, isn't it? They're trying to use this digital transparency to leapfrog over decades of paper-based bureaucracy and, crucially, the endemic corruption that basically acts as a tax on all trade.
And that distinction really defines our mission for this deep dive. We're examining this north versus south digital divide. Can emerging African port systems, specifically in Nigeria and Algeria, use blockchain to solve their core governance and integrity issues? And in doing so, could they actually achieve this unique kind of digital leapfrogging?
And by that, you mean bypassing all those cumbersome legacy systems.
Exactly. And maybe, just maybe, outpace the established giants by cutting out those manual bottlenecks entirely. I think this is a truly fascinating, really high-stakes use case for this kind of technology.
Okay, so let's unpack this. I think we need to start by establishing the high-functioning model.
The gold standard.
The gold standard. When we look at these mature port ecosystems, their whole push for digitalization is driven by two things. It's incremental efficiency gains and extreme resilience.
Because their baseline is already so high.
So high. So every single investment has to justify its expense by either optimizing that last mile or by future-proofing against, global chaos.
Let's start with Singapore then, the global benchmark. They have the Tuas Megaport, which is, it's basically the port of the future, but it's operating today.
It really is. And their overall strategy, which they call the node-to-network vision, it's less about fixing broken parts and much more about building this hyper-resilience against external shocks.
So not just being efficient, but being unbreakable.
Absolutely. For PSA Singapore, resilience is everything. They are constantly stress testing their systems against pretty significant global volatility.
Yeah.
And this isn't just theoretical.
Right.
They're modeling real-world disruptions. Think about, a sudden blockage in the Suez Canal or major geopolitical shifts that lead to sanctions on certain trade lanes.
Or just massive, unpredictable cargo surges.
Exactly. They see themselves as this critical node, and its stability is absolutely essential to the entire global network.
And that ability to anticipate and react, that has to hinge completely on predictive power.
Which comes directly from AI, from artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
We see their heavy, heavy reliance on AI-powered forecasting and these really sophisticated scenario modeling tools. They don't just react to demand. They run these continuous simulations to anticipate demand shifts, weeks, maybe even months ahead.
So give us an example. What does that look like in practice?
Okay, so imagine a vessel is suddenly delayed by, say, 3 days off the coast of Africa.
All right.
Now, in a less advanced port, this would cause a cascade of chaos when it finally arrives.
A huge bottleneck.
A huge bottleneck. But here, the AI has already anticipated the potential shift in resource requirements. It allows the port to dynamically reallocate berths, cranes, manpower, all in real time, sometimes even before the ship has left its previous port.
Wow. So it's resource management that's become hyper-efficient.
It has. But the real operational, the game changer for a port at this level of sophistication, it's not just the AI predicting when the ship arrives, it's how they handle the physical cargo once it's there.
And that's where you get into things like autonomous horizontal transport, the AHT.
That's the convergence point.
Yeah.
AHT is the physical manifestation of all that data efficiency. We're talking about scalable, safe, efficient movement of containers horizontally within this massive terminal.
Using what, like automated guided vehicles?
AGVs, autonomous cranes, yes. And these systems are talking to the central AI constantly. So there are no human errors, no traffic jams, just optimal flow from the second that container is offloaded.
So it's pure last-mile optimization. It's like tuning a perfectly built engine.
That's a great way to put it. And in this context, they're using blockchain to guarantee the integrity of those AI data streams.
To make sure the data feeding the machines is perfect.
And that every autonomous decision is logged, it's immutable, and it's auditable for security and compliance. It's all about securing the speed.
It's a very specific mindset.
It is. And Singapore's advice to new ports is actually to embrace this kind of foundational digital infrastructure, but to adopt a very disciplined test and learn approach.
So don't try to boil the ocean.
Don't try to swallow the entire technological sea in one gulp. Focus on modular implementation.
Okay, so now let's pivot. Let's look across the North Sea to Rotterdam. They share that goal of optimization, but their ambition seems to tie digitalization to something bigger.
It is bigger. It's a massive, overarching sustainability mandate. Their goal is to become a zero-emission port by 2050.
That's a crucial point. For Rotterdam, it's not just about maximizing container throughput.
No, it's about aligning speed with net zero sustainability. The pursuit of efficiency is now totally inseparable from their environmental targets.
And the big technology they're leveraging to do that is the digital twin concept. For anyone listening who's unfamiliar, what does that actually mean in a port?
A digital twin is, it's essentially a highly detailed, exact virtual replica of the entire port infrastructure.
The entire thing.
The entire thing. The waterways, the terminals, the storage yards, the ship movements. And it's fed this vast amount of real-time data from hundreds of thousands of IoT sensors.
Monitoring what?
Everything. Water currents, silt levels, vessel engine heat signatures, terminal energy consumption. It's all running on a cloud platform.
So it's not just a fancy graphic, it's a living, breathing prediction engine.
Precisely. It is a critical decision-making tool. It uses historical data, machine learning, deep learning models, all to optimize these really complex physical tasks.
Like what?
Okay, take dredging. Dredging is enormously expensive and energy intensive.
Right.
Instead of just relying on periodic physical surveys, the digital twin predicts exactly where and when dredging is needed based on predicted ship movements and real-time data on currents and silt.
So you're only dredging where you absolutely have to.
Exactly, which maximizes the cargo capacity for each ship by ensuring optimal draft, which in turn saves money and, more importantly, significantly reduces fuel consumption and CO2 emissions.
That makes perfect sense. Optimizing resource use aligns directly with that zero-emission goal. But let's circle back to blockchain. How does a port like Rotterdam use it when their internal systems are already so efficient?
Well, they're streamlining the inherently complex, multi-party external processes.
Ah, okay. The stuff that still relies on paper.
The old paper trails. I mean, think about one single container arriving from, say, Shanghai, and it's destined for a warehouse in Germany. Typically, you have at least 20 different parties concerned with that one container's process.
20? That's staggering. Who are all these players?
Oh, you have the shipping line, the terminal operator, customs, the bank financing the trade, the insurance company, freight forwarders, road transport, warehousing, inspection agencies. I mean, the list goes on.
And they're all on different systems.
All on different siloed IT systems. And historically, they have no real reason to fully trust each other's documentation.
So every single handoff requires verification, which means delay.
Exactly, delay. So Rotterdam, through initiatives like BlockLab and the Naviporta platform, they're piloting blockchain solutions specifically to reduce this cumbersome paper trail, to eliminate that trust friction.
So it's a shared single source of truth.
An immutable, cryptographically secured ledger where all 20 parties can see the same validated data at the same time. This just eliminates issues like, bill of lading disputes, and it enables customs pre-clearance much faster.
Okay, so if I'm understanding this right, Singapore is using blockchain to secure the speed of automation inside the port.
Yes.
And Rotterdam is using it to secure the coordination across external parties outside the port.
That's it.
But the common denominator is that both are using it to optimize data sharing and increase auditability in environments where the main challenge is just complex coordination efficiency.
That is the high-functioning model in a nutshell. They're building incrementally on robust, high-trust systems. They're moving from, say, 95% efficiency toward 98%.
And the contrast couldn't be sharper when we move south.
It couldn't, because there, the technology is being deployed to solve a problem that's of a completely different order of magnitude.
Because these emerging ports, They're not trying to get from 95 to 98%.
Yeah.
They're trying to build trust where that trust is, for all intents and purposes, absent. Which brings us right into the heart of this deep dive. How African ports are using blockchain as a tool for governance and integrity. So let's start with Nigeria. It's often identified as one of the most challenging maritime environments in the world. What are the systemic problems there?
Nigeria is. It's the textbook case where systemic governance issues, not a lack of technical capacity, are the primary bottleneck. The process of cargo clearance in Lagos, for example, is, well, it's notorious for being a maze of overlapping paperwork, arbitrary delays, and endless regulatory hurdles.
So the core issue is a lack of standardization.
A widespread lack of consistent procedures, exactly.
And inconsistency is the enemy of efficiency, but it's also the breeding ground for corruption.
Precisely. That lack of standardization, it grants individual officials wide discretionary power. And when the rules are inconsistent, that discretion becomes the entry point for corrupt demands, for extortion, for harassment against crews and port agents.
The manual bottlenecks become opportunities to get paid.
To put it bluntly, yes, rent-seeking.
And this quickly moves beyond just a moral issue. It becomes a devastating, measurable economic tax on the entire country's trade. We have to look at the cost data here because it really illustrates the scale of this problem.
We do. The Maritime Anti-Corruption Network, or MACN, they've done extensive work detailing this. Their reports estimate that corruption adds a full 15% to the total transport and logistics cost for critical imports.
15%. That's a huge markup just for bureaucracy.
And we can actually quantify the total economic drain from that. That 15% translates to approximately $160 million a year.
Wow.
Being lost directly to corrupt port practices and unnecessary delays.
$160 million in pure cost. Money that should be going into infrastructure or the economy. But who ultimately pays that cost? It's not just the foreign ship owners.
No, it's the average Nigerian consumer, especially the ones who can least afford it.
Right.
The MACN report makes it clear that these increased import costs result in price hikes of around 2% for the average, predominantly low-income Nigerian family.
2% on everything.
On everything. And when you consider that 63% of Nigerians, that's 133 million people, are classified as multidimensionally poor, this corruption is effectively a heavy tax on necessities. It just crushes household demand.
That is a staggering human cost. It's a vicious cycle where inefficiency drives corruption, and that corruption drives poverty.
Which is why the need for a systemic fix is so clear. The country desperately needs solutions that enforce transparency, predictability, and accountability.
And this is where MACN's collective action initiative comes in. It shows how effective a simple digital tool can be.
It does. It shows how you can target these manual bottlenecks with an integrity-enforcing mechanism.
So what did they actually implement?
They implemented a national help desk, and they coupled it with an anonymous incident reporting system.
Ah, anonymous is the key.
Anonymous is the genius of it, because it creates an undeniable, verifiable record of the corrupt demand. It makes it impossible for officials or agencies to just ignore it or deny the incident happened. It forces accountability.
So before the system, what was the typical timeline if a ship owner wanted to challenge a corrupt demand?
It was an operational nightmare. Resolving a formal case took anywhere from 7 to 10 days.
Or a week or more.
A week or more with your vessel just sitting there. And to put a price tag on that delay, the operational costs for a ship owner were running at about $150,000 per port call.
$150,000 just for one stop.
Just for one stop.
Yeah.
But by 2021, thanks to this system's transparency and the rapid escalation channel, the average case resolution time dropped dramatically. We're talking about falling from 10 days down to between 1 and 4 hours.
1 to 4 hours. That is systemic structural change. It's enforced by a simple digital solution that just bypasses the human element of discretion.
And the cost savings followed instantly. Operational costs just plummeted from that huge 150,000 figure down to roughly $20,000 per port call.
So a saving of $130,000.
Per call. This success is just a powerful proof point. It confirms that technology, specifically data-driven transparency, can be transformative in combating corruption and delivering huge, measurable cost reductions.
Okay, so Nigeria used a digital reporting system to enforce governance. Let's shift a bit to Algeria, where the focus seems to be squarely on using blockchain itself to reduce bureaucracy and delays.
Right. The Algerian case provides a perfect academic counterpoint. There was a study focusing on the ports of Gazaway and Annaba, and it examined the practical impact of integrating blockchain into their export procedures.
And what did they find?
The consensus across the board, from freight forwarders to customs officials, was unanimous. There's a firm belief that blockchain is essential for enhancing their competitiveness and tackling these existing issues like excessive bureaucracy and just a general lack of transparency.
So what specific improvements did the study actually track?
It was designed to measure how a decentralized, secure ledger affected 4 key performance indicators: digitization quality, data security, communication, and crucially, the reduction of lead times.
And which area saw the biggest impact?
The dimension of delay reduction, the acceleration of the export processes, that showed the most significant impact. The analysis found a massive 66.7% correlation between blockchain integration and the improvement of those processes.
66.7%. I mean, that number alone justifies the entire digital push, doesn't it?
It really does. It means that removing paper, removing manual authentication, removing the need for physical checks, it translates almost directly to faster trade.
It just speaks volumes about how inefficient the old manual system must have been.
Absolutely. The ability of blockchain to facilitate quick and secure data transmission between all the stakeholders, it's profoundly effective in cutting down processing times. But what about data security? That's often cited as blockchain's main advantage. It followed very closely behind. It showed a 65.2% correlation. Blockchain, being a cryptographically secured, tamper-proof ledger, it just addresses the enormous vulnerability and risk associated with manual data entry and paper archives.
So this convergence of necessity and technology, this is the perfect argument for that leapfrogging strategy we talked about.
It is.
Instead of spending decades building these cumbersome, centralized IT systems that might just digitize the same bad manual processes, they can jump straight from paper to an immutable, secure ledger that's basically designed to enforce integrity.
That is the compelling promise. The absence of heavy, entrenched, expensive legacy IT means there's just far less organizational inertia. There's less resistance to adopting completely new operational models in these markets.
Which brings us squarely to our core debate. Is this theoretical leapfrogging truly possible in the real world? Or are the systemic challenges, political, regulatory, infrastructural, just too great to overcome?
And this is where the rubber really meets the road, because the sources present compelling evidence on both sides of this. It creates a necessary tension. So let's start with your argument, the optimistic one.
Okay, my argument leans heavily on insights from places like FinDev, emerging markets. They often have fewer established, entrenched legacy systems.
Less baggage.
Less baggage and fewer dominant market players. This combination naturally leads to less organizational resistance and, crucially, potentially faster adoption and scaling of pilot programs. If you don't have to worry about replacing a $50 million mainframe system, your barriers to entry are instantly lower.
That logic holds up. If the status quo is dysfunctional paper, then any functioning digital solution is an immediate improvement. So you minimize resistance from everyone, except, of course, those who are benefiting from the old corrupt system.
Exactly. And the foundational infrastructure advantage is, well, it's already there, even if it's not traditional IT. We see this massive, pervasive use of mobile-based services across Africa and Asia.
Mobile penetration is huge.
Extremely high. It's 83% among the 16 to 65 age bracket. That's a built-in, low-cost infrastructure advantage for deploying digital blockchain-based services. You don't need widespread fixed-line IT.
That's a powerful point.
Yeah.
The citizens are already digitized. So a transition to a mobile authenticated logistics system is... it's feasible.
And we don't have to look far for confirmation of this. We've seen undeniable success stories in adjacent sectors, like finance.
Right, in trade finance.
Exactly. Moving from paper ledgers and letters of credit to electronic tracking on a distributed ledger. It's already reduced transaction times from days to just a few minutes. This is real, proven, scalable speed.
What's fascinating here, though, is that this high adoption rate it's a reaction to immediate, sometimes desperate needs. I mean, look at the astonishing rate of crypto adoption. Nigeria is second globally in crypto adoption volume. But it's often driven by the necessity of hedging against rampant currency volatility, managing high inflation, facilitating cheaper remittances.
So it's not necessarily a planned, top-down government strategy.
Not at all. It highlights the grassroots demand. People are turning to digital assets because traditional finance is failing them. The demand for digital integrity is organic.
But that's my point. It's organic. It's demand-driven.
And this is the core of the skepticism I bring to this, that organic, necessity-driven adoption coexists with massive regulatory uncertainty and geopolitical instability.
The political will.
The political will. Success in a critical infrastructure sector like ports, it hinges not just on good tech, but on strong political will and sustained engagement.
And you worry that political will runs headfirst into the cold, hard reality of poor infrastructure.
Precisely. We saw earlier that customs modernization efforts in Nigeria are frequently hampered by these fundamental physical infrastructure gaps. Poor internet connectivity, routine system downtime.
The digital system, no matter how immutable the blockchain, requires reliable internet to run.
Of course. You can't realize the benefit of immediate shared data if half the stakeholders are perpetually offline or they're struggling with low bandwidth.
It creates islands of digital efficiency that don't connect to the rest of the supply chain.
That's it. You have one customs broker who noted that poor connectivity is constantly hampering the drive that the customs team themselves are bringing to the table. It undermines the whole thing.
The classic chicken and egg problem. Digitization exposes the corruption, but the physical reality of the country, the lack of reliable power or bandwidth, makes that same digitization unreliable.
And on top of that, the blockchain technology itself is still nascent in the logistics sphere. Even if the intent is there, it faces numerous technical, regulatory, and institutional hurdles.
Like what?
Well, things like defining common data standards, ensuring interoperability between systems, establishing the legal frameworks for digital documentation. These are massive undertakings.
And you see that regulatory volatility so clearly in the fintech space. In Nigeria, for instance, you have this fragmentation among regulators. The central bank, the SEC, the Revenue Service, all trying to define their roles in a space that's evolving way too fast.
So it creates these legal gray areas.
Yeah.
And it makes it incredibly hard for blockchain initiatives to scale outside of these carefully controlled pilot environments.
And in some places, digital assets are still treated with outright hostility.
Which poisons the well for logistics innovation. In Algeria, for example, there are specific laws that criminalize digital currencies. And that creates a legally challenging environment for adoption, even if the port stakeholders unanimously agree on the benefits of blockchain for their specific processes.
That's a powerful contradiction. The users on the ground see the immense value, but the political superstructure is either too fragmented or actively hostile.
So to succeed, the political class needs to recognize that deploying blockchain for port logistics is not the same thing as promoting volatile crypto trading.
It's an infrastructure tool for integrity, not a financial speculation tool.
Precisely.
So, okay, if the developed world is seeking marginal efficiency and the emerging world desperately needs structural integrity, then the true winning model has to be a hybrid.
It has to be. It's where that ground-up necessity, the powerful drive of people solving real problems like corruption and remittance costs, meets a deliberate, sustained political will from the top down.
A will to overcome the infrastructure deficits and institutionalize that transparency.
If that regulatory and political framework can be harmonized, then the digital leap is absolutely possible. Otherwise, these crucial integrity tools, they just remain stuck in pilot phases. The jump isn't just technological, it's a jump in governance maturity.
Okay, let's bring it back to the big picture and summarize what this north-south divide teaches us about the future of global logistics.
Well, we established that Western ports, like Rotterdam and Singapore, are pursuing marginal efficiency gains. They're pushing already perfect systems from 95 to 98% operational perfection.
Their problem is coordination among high-trust parties.
Right. Meanwhile, the African ports, Nigeria, Algeria, they're deploying blockchain not for that last mile of efficiency, but for the crucial first mile of trust.
And their potential payoff is systemic. It's transforming governance, it's dramatically cutting costs, like that stunning $130,000 saving per ship call in Nigeria.
And it's fundamentally accelerating trade, like that 66% correlation between lead time reduction and blockchain we saw in Algeria.
This is maybe the most powerful demonstration of this technology's true societal value. Its application isn't just about optimizing the world's most successful systems.
It's about fixing the fundamentally broken, unstable ones. It's about using technology to enforce the rule of law.
Which brings us back to game changers. For Singapore, they define their game changer as autonomous horizontal transport, moving physical cargo with supreme efficiency.
But If emerging economies can successfully use these digital ledgers to enforce integrity, where paper trails and manual discretion have repeatedly failed,
then the true game changer might not be about how fast a machine can move a container from point A to point B.
it's whether the digital system can enforce verifiable transparency where human trust is completely absent. And it suggests that the most valuable application of blockchain globally, especially in developing nations, is in governance, integrity, and anti-corruption.
That's a profound shift in perspective. But if we look further out, the technologies being developed in mature ports, they still represent the ultimate endpoint for optimization. I mean, PSA Singapore is already talking about the next frontier, embodied AI.
Right, embodied AI. That's intelligence embedded directly into the physical systems. So the autonomous cranes and inspection robots, they don't just follow pre-programmed paths. They learn, they adapt, and they make optimized decisions locally in real time.
Which requires perfect data integrity.
Which brings it right back to blockchain.
And their long-term vision is even more radical. They're exploring things like small modular nuclear reactors to provide stable, carbon-free power for 247 port operations.
The future of global ports is clearly intelligent, digitized, and highly differentiated, based on whether they need to solve for efficiency or integrity first. But the fact that both halves of this global system are converging on the same core technology shows its foundational importance.
Well, thank you for joining us for this deep dive into blockchain logistics and trade innovation. We really encourage you to continue exploring how these foundational shifts in digital governance will reshape global trade.
And maybe mull over this question. Which approach is better positioned for ultimate success? Is the necessity-driven approach of the emerging markets forced by survival and integrity needs more powerful in the long run than the incremental, optimization-focused advancements of the legacy giants? It's certainly a question worth thinking about.
We'll catch you next time.